What is up, my tribal people? Welcome back to another episode clip of Pre the Podcast. And just a reminder that these are only short clips, and if you want to listen to the full episode, make sure you click the first link in the description below. Or alternatively, you could type in Pre the Podcast on all your audio listening platforms. And if you want to keep up with what goes on behind the scenes, make sure you follow our Instagram and all our socials at Pre the Podcast. Without further ado, I'll catch you guys on the other side.
We begin this hour with the couple who disappeared with their newborn baby a month ago being arrested overnight in Brighton, but their child is nowhere to be found. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon were found after they were spotted by a member of the public. Police have now launched an urgent search for the baby, who is not thought to have received any medical attention since her birth, or at the birth of the baby at the beginning of the month.
What mental health issues you would have to go about these decisions.
You are now listening to Breathe the Podcast with your host, Mujaro.
What is up, my tribal people? You already know what I'm going to say. Make sure you like,
comment, and subscribe.
Because we're trying to grow the community, and by sharing this with your friends and families, that goes a long way in helping us do that. Now, let's get into it. So, the next topic we're going to discuss is the recent story that broke out regarding two parents and their child going missing. So, I didn't know this was a story until Cam brought it to me. And I was like, oh, what's this? Like, you know, babies and people go missing every day. What's so special about this one? So let's watch this BBC report and let's refresh our memories on the facts of the story and how this became a story.
We begin this hour with the couple who disappeared with their newborn baby a month ago being arrested overnight in Brighton, but their child is nowhere to be found. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon were found after they were spotted by a member of the public. Police have now launched an urgent search for the baby, who is not thought to have received any medical attention since her birth, or at the birth of the baby at the beginning of the month. Vincent McAvini reports.
35-year-old Constance Martin and 48-year-old Mark Gordon were reported missing on the 5th of January after their car broke down near Junction 4 of the M61 near Bolton. The car was found on fire, and it's believed Ms. Martin had given birth either in or near the car a day or two earlier. Over the following weeks, there were sightings of the couple in a number of places, including Liverpool, Essex, South London and East Sussex. They were thought to be carrying a large amount of cash and to be using camping equipment to live off-grid. Authorities previously thought the couple had been sleeping rough in a blue tent, avoiding being traced by the police by moving around frequently and keeping their faces covered in CCTV images. Police had expressed fears that the baby was being exposed to sub-zero temperatures and said they were extremely concerned for its well-being. Constance Martin, who was from a wealthy family, was a drama student when she first met Mark Gordon in 2016. Since meeting, the couple led an isolated life, and in September, when Martin was well into her pregnancy, began moving around rental flats. Gordon, a registered sex offender, was deported to Britain from the United States in 2010 after spending 20 years in prison for a rape he committed, aged 14. Despite their estrangement, Constance's father, Napier Martin, has been publicly urging her to make herself known to authorities for the safety of both herself and his grandchild.
So that report was a couple of days ago, but in recent days, the story's developed to the police identifying a baby, I think in a forest. The baby didn't, in Brighton, from Bolton to Brighton. That's mad.
Crazy, man.
They weren't able to rescue the baby, and the baby sadly passed away. So now we know the facts of the story. This is just tragic. Like, being obviously a new parent, I can't even imagine what mental health issues you would have to go about these decisions. Like, first of all, these people weren't poor. She comes from a wealthy family. They were,
He might have been.
Yeah, but she's fine.
I'm not aristocratic, apparently.
Really?
She's from a family of aristocrats. So
British ones?
yes, yeah.
Right, so this guy's not even, they're not struggling. Like,
So they're good.
they're good.
They're good.
This is mental health. Like, this is mental health.
I feel like there has to be a component of that. It's clearly not a rational approach. I don't know why what were they running away from?
That's the thing. I don't think it's been cleared.
And I don't care what they were running away from.
But it's just the whole, okay, giving birth in your car, potentially. You've now set on fire, you've gone on the run. Like, what's happened? Why?
That's mental health, that's schizophrenia, that's something.
Something's happened, but, there's options. If you don't want to have your child, someone will. You can put your child up for adoption. Might not be the thing that a lot of people agree with, but don't jeopardize this child's life, And then exposing them to like sub-zero temperatures, hiding your face, something sketchy is going on. See, obviously the first thing that comes to my mind when I see it is he's a ex-sex offender in the US. He got deported. He was in prison for 20 years. Did she even know that? And if she did, was he doing something to her to abuse her? Is he now affecting her?
Oh,
I don't know. I'm reading.
So I'm coming off the point of view like they're both in on it. Potentially, it could be just one partner coercing or forcing the other one to go about.
Started somewhere though.
She's known him for a long time though. They met in 2016.
Yeah, that's long.
A long time.
That's a long time.
Story.
And yeah, that's the thing. There can't be a rash. I think there has to be a mental health component because they're not thinking in a way that there's any reasonable person who think. Obviously, it's just a shame because obviously the child didn't make the choice to be born into that scenario, and you've taken that life away. So.
Yeah, it's mad because, it just doesn't make sense. So, obviously, someone must have reported them missing. So, I think it was probably the grandfather.
I think they said it was one of the grandparents. Yeah.
So, the grandparents, it doesn't seem like they're coming from a abandoned family, like they're getting disowned. So, the grandfather is looking out for them and saying, come home. We want you to be okay with the baby, X, Y, and Z. And then 24 hours later, the baby's found. And now that whole community has their whole life turned upside down. Like, come from Bolton to Brighton. I found in like a forest or somewhere there. Literally, the police were saying, we have to cordon everything off. Like this whole 3 mile, I don't know if it's 3 mile radius, but a large section of this area. Can't really go into your house without having to, get permission. You have to do X, Y, and Z. You can't go here. Like, you have to probably register to come out of your house or even ask permission to move out. They said, don't touch this, don't touch that. They're going around from door to door saying, have you noticed anything suspicious over the past couple of days, X, Y, and Z? So their lives are being turned upside down as well. And they didn't even know any of this was happening. Yeah. And, obviously, one of the nice things that the community over there in Brighton have done is, I think they're putting out a candle on their porch to, show some solidarity with this situation. So now that, we've had a conclusion in terms of, the result of, the baby being found, what do you think should happen?
Lock them up. Dash away the key.
to both of them or whoever's
I don't know.
the ringleader of this ordeal.
I think they should both get life imprisonment. I don't think they both will get life imprisonment. So one thing I read was that the family had actually sort of pulled away from her because of her relationship with this guy.
Oh, so before the baby was involved?
Before the baby was involved. So I think that's probably the way
it started.
And she probably is a bit of a victim. I don't think there's any scenario where you can say that she's completely a victim because she's agreed to this.
She's contributed
to this. But I do think it's probably going to be framed as this guy is terrible. He's going to go to jail. I think, as bad as it sounds, rich people don't always face justice like they should.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be careful with my words, but I think hopefully she gets a bit more than a slap on the wrist.
Money talks.
So do you reckon? Okay, because obviously no one comes from a blank history. No one comes like these two are there's equal partners in the crime that's been committed. It's never like that. It's never a blank slate that all of a sudden these people have committed this crime and they have no prior histories. They have no prior this. So of course his history is going to come into account in regards to him being deported, him being a sex offender, and the fact that she's, comes from a wealthy family, and this might be one of her first infringements on the law. So that's going to be inherently lopsided. They're not going to get the same treatment because of the history, first and foremost. And, one of them comes from money, one of them doesn't.
Yeah.
So she's probably going to have the best lawyers. Her family is going to, probably be there for her. If he's committed the crimes that he's committed, he might not even have any family that's trying to claim him, especially after something like this. So they're probably going to lean towards the mental health aspect for her heavily. I feel like that's probably the safest route for them to go, because no one in their right mind does this.
It is. See, this is the thing. I say, lock them up, throw away the key. I mean, they probably both deserve life in prison if we're being serious. But they need that. They need that support in terms of their mental health as well. Because if they're going to be in there the rest of their life, can't have them get worse. It will decline more. And then even just talking about life imprisonment is a whole other thing with whether the reform system.
Do you think that they can be reformed?
If you look at prison systems,
I don't think prison is designed.
They're not designed to reform people. They're designed to lock people up because they've done something bad. Like put a child in the corner. Like you sit in the corner for a little bit.
And I think this guy is a good example. Okay, he had this terrible crime at the age of 14. At the age of 14,
it's wild. That's wild.
Yeah.
When I heard 14, I was like, what?
At any ages, but 14, you're a teen.
Young.
Come on, man.
And you'd hope 20 years in punishment would help to reform this person, but he's clearly come out and done.
Honestly, like you said, I don't think prison's there to reform. Prison makes a lot of things worse because you're not in a quote unquote controlled environment there by your thoughts. You're in another ecosystem, in a more harsh, damaging ecosystem. Like he's obviously him being a ex-offender. He's on the tier list of worst criminals. That's literally at the top. So people are going to be on his case. Yo, what you do? Yo, even regardless of him being a kid or 14 or a teenager, they're like, yo, what you do, fam? No, that don't run around here.
Yeah.
We're onto you.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with that. That definitely mentally damages you if you weren't already damaged enough to actually do that crime at that age. So, yeah.
And again, I don't know much about him, but when he got deported back here, was he on some form of watch? Like normally when you release someone for certain crimes, there's certain elements of the police are still aware of that person, who they're around. I don't know.
I think that's the thing. That at least
did he have to sign the sex offender register?
Yeah, he must have been.
He
must have been.
He should have, but
he must have. If that wasn't done, I don't know. But he must have, because it's information, open information. Everyone knows it's being reported on, so it must have been somewhere for people to find out.
Shouldn't that be red flags for her then?
That's
the problem.
Some people,
she's gone in.
Red flag.
He can change. No, that's a red flag.
Yeah, that's not even a red flag. That's a black flag, bro.
That's not a flag.
It's not a flag. It's just a never.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing. I don't want to sound like I feel bad for rich people, but I feel like a lot of them end up acting out in scenarios like that. Not to even come close to trying to justify, but this is probably part of some sort of rebellious phase that she had.
Yo, do you know when we talked about corny, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
This is what I picture what girls say when they call someone corny. Oh, you're corny. No. As in, what is the opposite of corny to them? What's attractive to them? Oh, so you're calling this person corny. What do you actually think is, lit? What do you think is actually good and, interactive and fun and engaging? I feel like it's this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's some toxic relationship.
Bonnie and Clyde were on
the run. No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is the extreme.
This is
the extreme. This is not what do you know what it is for me when I think about when someone thinks what not corny is? It's like someone who's got a bit of like that edge about them, like they say.
Not full on blade, bro.
But not a massive like criminal. Like,
Wronging.
Someone who just like gives them that little bit of banter, I guess. But sometimes that balance, you need that balance. And if sometimes the nice guy's the way to go, you know. I don't know what people are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, this guy could have all the Riz in the world. We don't know.
Spit my game on bag out.
Sometimes that's enough, unfortunately. But
and to think, she must be like I've heard stories of.
She's had everything her whole life.
And but like that's the thing. I've still heard stories of people who've had the best upbringing ever, but they still fall into the traps that people with no money have. Like, I know this is like a TV show, but like, take Tariq from Power, right?
My guy.
This guy's dad, was basically Jay-Z. Came from the streets, did things he didn't want to do, but he was always trying to get out. Finally makes it in a penthouse suite. But then his son finds out about his history, and he's like, "Yo, I want to be like my dad. Like, how come you didn't?" First of all, the dad's trying to hide all this, and then when it finally breaks out the history,
this is the issue: how exposed are these kids to these things that happen in the world? Because if you live a Christian life and you're never exposed to bad things that happen, you could be going down routes that you're not even aware.
You don't even, you're right.
When I've always grown up, I've always been aware of that stuff in the news. I've always been aware of where you should go and where you shouldn't. And that's just, it shouldn't strike fear into you, but it makes you street smart. It allows you to understand how you should be living, and it guides you on a path towards what I'm going to call greatness. And that's where I'm trying to be.
And when it comes to like these topics we talked about, I feel like now being a parent, it really comes down to the parents. Where are the parents in all this? Michael B. Jordan had his family and had his support to be like, no, you're not going to be out here in the streets. You're going to be doing this. Is this what you want to do? Or you want to do football? You want to do basketball? You want to do acting, music? Okay. If we see you got talent and we believe in you, we'll support you. If you're that passionate about it, we'll steer you down the right lane and keep you away from the bad stuff. But we've all had people in our lives or people that we went to school with who didn't have that guidance, who didn't have that upbringing. Like when you were last on the podcast, we talked about community centres and having that sense of community and having people that are around you in your area that care and everyone's looking out for each other. If he's a British citizen and he moved to America, he might not have had that support. He might just have this family. He might have come from a single parent household. I know no knocks against single parents. I know it's hard, but with that difficulty, it also comes with difficulty of raising your child because you only have one set of eyes, one set of ears, one mind. Whereas with two people, you can be like, okay, now I'll focus on his this, I'll focus on her that, you focus on this, and you focus on that. So it's all historical. It all starts from somewhere. There's a point in these people's lives where they made one decision or someone wasn't there to guide them in the right way. And a cascade of bad decisions has led them to making terrible actions.
And look what it led to. It's awful. It's awful. But, if we just keep doing the same actions of, oh yeah, they're criminals, put them in prison, whatever, but not try to make that change to focus on that mental health, to focus on making changes in kids' lives. In this country, how much do we support kids? In early stages. Now, it does feel like now mental health is talked a lot more about. And I feel like there is a bigger push for it. And, it's not just about your physical health now, but
whether there's more funding is another matter.
Exactly, we've just had COVID, we've had Brexit, all these other things.
Taxes are going up, interest rates,
we're in cost of living,
inflation. Bruv.
We're still in it.
Do you think it's way worse now? It's way worse now, bro.
It's 100% worse. Everything's gone up. Since we last spoke, everything's gone up. My rent's going up.
That was pre-Liz Truss, right?
Yeah.
We had a different.
We were talking about Boris, bro.
That was 2 prime ministers ago, and it's not even been a year.
Wow,
it's not even
been a year.
That was June, July.
That's mad.
Crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's worse.
It's getting
Oh,
worse.
yeah.
The pressure is getting worse.
These kids ain't getting the love. They're not getting the love.
No, not
You know,
at all.
if anytime there's funding, I think we said this last time, it's always taken from education and kids, and I don't get it.
Or health.
Or health. Why are those the ones we cut it from? The two things that we should be investing the most money in.
I mean, we've got a Prime Minister who specifically said he wants to take money out of deprived areas. Do you remember this?
Yes, I remember that story.
Yeah. And he's our Prime Minister, so I don't understand what these...
This was when he was before in
This is
office.
before him.
Yeah. I remember that video.
He wants to help more people like you in rural areas.
Yeah, that's what he said. Oh, this guy's an idiot.
And this is what we have to work with, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, I work in the NHS, so I have a more intimate understanding of the issues with funding and stuff, services. So, yeah, it's tough out there, and yeah, people aren't getting the support. You know, I don't think anyone should go away for 20 years and come out worse. I think that means we failed as a society. So.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, really agree.
I know that's a, depressing story to end things off. But on a positive note, have you guys got any things coming up in your lives? Any message you want to leave the people with before we sign off?
You know what? When you see stories like this, you have to, like you said, you've got to take some positives. So let's just hope that we do change the society, we do push forward and try and focus on other things like mental health and
funding the right departments.
Because this can help reduce and limit how many things like this come up.
Yeah,
so it's crazy when you see it.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. Like this is probably like the most eye-raising one in a while. But don't get it twisted. Like stories like this are happening on Shadeborough every month.
They do.
Yeah. Like,
I guess my message is just going to be like, if you feel any type of way, speak to someone and try and get that help if you need to. Speak to that person you're closest to. It might not always be a parent, guardian. It could be a teacher. It could be a friend. But speak to someone, and then hopefully you can get the help that you need.
And yeah, I mean, I think in addition, we all need to be better at reaching out to those people as well. I have no idea what happened in this situation, but if we can all work to reach out, yeah, hopefully we can reduce these sorts of incidences. Another thing I just wanted to say is if you're young, if you're a teenager, don't worry about being called corny. You might end up being Michael B. Jordan. So,
yeah, exactly. Facts.
Yeah, just stay focused, stay on the grind.
Tell them again.
And that's it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming through. Those are lovely messages.
Thanks for having me.
You're leaving with the people then with.
Yeah,
So
really appreciate it, bro.
No problem. We'll do this again for sure. So that's been this week's episode of Pre the Podcast. I'm your host, Majaro Kayoma. Thank you guys for listening. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Said I wake up every morning, pray to God that I'm fixing up. Hope I'm never slipping up. Hear the money calling, need my peace to start getting up. Feeling like I'm blessed, but it came with a bit of luck. Feeling like you stressed, then the tension starts to fill you up. Need an intermission, yeah, they ain't the same lane as us. Come from different sticks, yeah, they're not the same range as us. They cop the pleas and top of teas, they're not hitting range with us. Keep